Alright guys, so we're going to be looking at overtime. Alright, overtime wage. It says basic workers in any company are sometimes called upon to work overtime hours. This could be due to heavy financial deadlines. Because of this demand and inconvenience, overtime is usually paid at a higher rate as demonstrated below. So time and a quarter is 1.25 times the basic rate. Time and a half is 1.5 times the basic rate. Double time is 2 times your basic rate. And triple time is 3 times your basic rate, right? Then it says here the overtime is equal to the overtime rate times the overtime worked, meaning the overtime hours worked. Okay, so let's just write hours there. All right, so let me give you an example now. All right, let's say the basic rate, let's say the basic rate you earn is $10 an hour, right? 10 US dollars an hour, right? So let's say your company calls on you and say, Mark, you have to work overtime. If you were to get time and a quarter, it would be 1.25 times the 10, which would be 12.5, right? This is how much you would get paid for each hour if it was time and a quarter. If it was time and a half, you would get 1.5 times 10, which is equal to $15 per hour. If it was double time, which would be 2 times 10, it would be $20 per hour. And if it was triple time, it would be 3 times 10, which is $30 per hour. All right. So this shows up in every company, guys. Sometimes you're going to have to work overtime, and some people don't even get paid for it. It's actually really sad. But all you have to do is just do the people and work and go home, okay? What I would advise is don't do too much overtime. If you're saving towards something, maybe you have to work some overtime, but try to protect your health. Overtime is not too good for your health, but you still have to work it sometimes, guys. Sometimes you really don't have a choice. You have to work the overtime in order to meet the deadlines with your company. So work hard, do what you have to do, but make sure you can calculate your own overtime when you go to work, right? All right, so we're going to look at some more formulas now. All right, guys, so we're back at it. We're looking at some information here. So it says the gross wage, right, which is the gross wage with the overtime. If overtime hours are approved, then the payroll department will need to know exactly how many basic hours are worked during that period and how many overtime hours were worked during the same period, right? Then they can calculate the gross wage, which is equal to the basic wage plus the overtime wage. And remember, the overtime wage is equal to the overtime rate, right? Whether it's time and a half or double time or whatever, multiplied by the overtime hours. Cool. All right, so let me give you an example of that. Yes, let's use the same similar example we had before, where you get paid $10 US an hour, right? So you get paid $10 US an hour. And let's say you work some double time hours, right? So the double time would be 2 times the 10 US, which is $20, right? This would be your overtime rate. So the overtime rate would be equal to the $20, right? And to find your overtime wage, this would be equal to the $20, right? Multiplied by, let's say you work 10 hours overtime, and it would be 200 US extra for that pay period, right? But let's say you worked a normal 40-hour work week, right? And if you worked a normal 40-hour work week, right, that would mean that your gross wage would be equal to the basic wage, which is the 40 normal hour work week times 10, plus the overtime wage, which is the 200 US extra, right? So for that week, you would end up with 400 US plus the 200 US extra, which would be 600 US for that week, right? Which is great. That's really awesome, just because you work 10 hours. All right. So when you really maps it out, sometimes overtime is really worth it because in working 10 hours, you basically get 20 hours worth of work pay, you know. So it really worth it sometimes, guys. Sometimes you just have to think about it and say, why might as well I put in an extra 5 hours of work in a car, I might get paid more. Or you can use that 5 hours towards something where you can make some money otherwise, right? But great. All right, so let's do some examples of overtime now. All right. All right, guys, awesome. So we're looking at this example here, and it says Christina works at Wendy's as a cashier and is paid a basic rate of $12 per hour. On the 4th of July, there was a huge demand of customers, and she was forced to work 5 hours overtime at a time and a half that day. Calculate the gross wage and the overtime wage if she worked 40 hours that week for the basic week. All right. All right. So remember that the gross wage is equal to the basic wage, right? Plus the overtime wage. Okay. All right. And the overtime wage is equal to the overtime rate multiplied by the overtime hours, right? How much hours she worked for overtime. So we need to first thing we need to do is find the overtime rate. Okay, so the overtime rate, it's at time and a half, right? So it's 1.5 multiplied by the $12. Cool. All right, so 1.5 times the $12 should actually give her $18. Cool. All right, so let's calculate the overtime wage. So the overtime wage is equal to the $18 that she worked, the overtime rate, multiplied by the 5 hours. Cool, because she was working for 5 hours. And 18 times 5 is actually 90. All right. Then her gross wage, right, is equal to the basic wage times the overtime wage. And she worked a regular 40-hour work week, right? So the gross wage is equal to the basic wage, which is 40 times 12, right? Plus the overtime wage, which is $90 for that week. Cool. So 40 times 12 should be, right, 40 times 12 is actually 480. Cool. And it's 480 plus 90, which would give us the answer. And it's 570. Okay. So she earned 570 US that week. All right. Cool. So overtime is simple. Just calculate the overtime and add it to the basic wage for the week. All right. Cool. So let's move on now. We're gonna move on to commission, which is a form of overtime in a way, but not really. So we're gonna move on to commission now, guys. All right. All right, guys. So we're gonna be looking at commission. Okay. And it says commission gross wage here, and it says a commission is a fee paid to a salesperson in exchange for services in facilitating and completing a sales transaction. The commission may be structured as a flat fee or as a percentage of the revenue, gross margin, or profit generated by the sale. Cool. Commission is paid in addition to the basic wage. The commission is equal to X% of the total value of the product sold, and the gross wage is equal to the basic wage plus the commission. All right. And you notice it says X% of the product sold. Okay. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say you're a salesman, you're a car salesman, right? And most car salesmen work on commission. Okay. And let's say you get 3% of each sale that you make. All right. 3% of each sale. And let's say you sell a Subaru, right, for 2.7 million, right? Then you would get a 3% commission, right, on your salary. So that's 3 over 100 multiplied by the $2.7 million car, right? and you would actually end up with an extra $81,000 on your salary. Okay, so this $81,000 would be the commission, and it's added to the basic wage. Cool. So in addition to your salary, you get this $81,000 because you made that big sale for that car, right? And a lot of people actually work on commission. Okay, guys. I work on commission, literally, and it's really fun to get like this extra amount each month of just making sales, which is what you are supposed to do as your job. So it's really nice, guys. It can be really nice, and let's go right into an example, because I think this is so beneficial. Like, sales can make you a lot of money. All right, guys. All right, so let's just look at the example now. All right, guys. So let's look at this example here, and it says Jenny works at Sammy's restaurant and is paid according to the rates in the following table. She gets $600 plus 90 cents for each customer served. Determine Jenny's weekly wage if she served 230 customers. All right. So this is a form of commission. For each person she serves, she gets 90 cents for each person. All right. So let's just calculate her commission. All right. Let's calculate her commission first. So her commission is equal to the 90 cents, right, multiplied by the 230 customers. Cool. So we're going to multiply the 90 cents by 230 with our calculators, and we should get $207. Okay. So her her weekly wage is equal to the basic wage, which is the $600 plus the $207. Cool. And the answer is $807. So that's how much she's paid for the week. All right. So you see how commission works, guys. She gets an extra 90 cents for each person. It's similar to like the car. You get 3% for each car you sell if you're a salesman. Very similar and very easy, guys. Not hard to do. And great. And we should do more examples in the worksheet. All right. So I'll see you guys later, and thank you so much for your time. All right, guys. So that's it. And I'll see you in the next lecture. And remember to do your best, and God will do the rest.